Well, coming off of War for Cybertron, we really wanted to build on what we had already done there. I felt we had done like a lot of really good work and set some really good, set a really good foundation for going into a new game.
It was easier for us to be a little bit more creative, especially since we already had a nice sound palette to begin with. We could focus on, just, stuff that we wanted to basically expand upon that we couldn't do in the first game that we could now do in this one.
With our Foley studio here, we really aim to create our own custom sound effects libraries as opposed to buying, a stock. There's great libraries out there, and we own a lot of those as well. But the more custom stuff that you can have, then you can really put your own artistic stamp on it, which is what we aim to do. This guy here, we resonated this with some dry ice a week or two ago, and because it's decently sized, it made these really big groaning sounds. And you think it's just a shelf, but it's now a giant room in the sea of rust. So as far as what we actually record in the studio, well,
a little bit of everything.
A little
really.
bit. We got a bug zapper off of Craigslist, right? Because there's tons of electricity in the game, right? There's very few things on Cybertron as far as sound source elements. Everything's either metal or electricity.
That's the big part about it, is just experimenting. We'll hit record in one of the rooms and we'll sit out there and, for an hour and do whatever we need to do. There's so many different props, so many things in there that you can just mess around with, various combinations until you get something that you like.
We've got a slinky, which you can use for all kinds of laser sounds. Little dowels are great for melee whooshes and spinning transforms and things. It's a typical kung fu whoosh is what it is, but you put a bunch of them up together. You've got Bumblebee doing backflips. Like, we've got tons of metal, knives, swords. There's a car door in there that we walk it around for a lot of the robot Foley. This door is, than anybody except Peter Cullen, is probably the most used actor in the entire game. This door is famous and it doesn't even know it. We've beat up every piece of metal. We've shinged every knife. This giant plate here is the melee sound, like the melee impacts, headshot impact, and it's just really, every person who's got a camera in the studio, we've recorded the camera for the servo sounds. We've got a pogo stick here, and you jump with a pogo stick, so that's exactly what we use it for in game. When the characters jump, we got the spring sound of the actual pogo. We only have a certain amount of things around the studio here that we can bring in. To really get more stuff, we had to go out, and one of the places that's great around here to do that is we've got the desert. The desert is like an awesome place to record sounds because it's actually really quiet.
All right, this is the Crossfire with a C engine. Stevie Ray Vaughan Memorial. Take one.
So one of the other things we recorded was a bunch of model rockets, because there's tons of rockets in the game, right? A lot of the vehicles shoot rockets. You've got the actual rocket launcher. There's all different types of rockets, it seems like, everywhere you go. So we needed a lot of new rocket source. So Ian and I and a bunch of the other guys, we built a bunch of model rockets, took them out into the desert.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, fire extinguisher! The cool thing that we really did with them was we put them on a cable.
Here we go.
So we had the rocket attached to a cable and then got the microphones about halfway down the cable so we could get the sound of the rocket actually flying by. So we were shooting them horizontally, right, and able to get that, the rocket coming in and really whizzing by your head kind of sound.
Right.
Whoa!
So we had that mic was kind of static in the middle of the line, so you'd get a really fast whiz by, and then we had another mic that was following it from the back, so you can actually get a nice decay of it.
In 3, 2, 1.
By doing like a bunch of layering up of a number of those rocket sounds, we take maybe a half a dozen or 4 or 5 of what we originally recorded, stack them on top of each other, pitch some of them down an octave or two, just add any kind of punchy sound at the front, whether it's an actual like punch, punching a turkey or hitting the car door in there with a mallet to give you some attack. Then we can end up with some sounds like these. Here's one of the actual in-game vehicle rockets. that you can fire off. So this first group of sounds we have here is some things we recorded out in the desert using a slingshot and some quarters. We set up some microphones to where the coins were flying by the mics and into the dirt, and here's a little bit of what we were able to get with those. So these are just the raw sounds, which are pretty decent little sounds that, you know, sound like bullets. But it's Cybertron, so it's not really bullets, right? So we had to do a little work to those, and here's an example of what we're able to do with those sounds for one of the projectile weapons in the game, where you shoot a blade and it kind of bounces around. So we've got the bouncing sound from the original ricochets, and then included some additional metal impacts and things with it. So
we also seem to do a lot of smaller recording trips. You know, everyone does the gun trips and the vehicle trips and stuff like that. But it's actually kind of nice just to, you know, if I'm working in there one day and I know I need something, for instance, I needed a big windstorm for part of the level. And so I was listening to what we had, and some of it worked, some of it didn't. But I figured, all right, well, I've got a mic, let's just go and get something. So we hopped in the car with another sound designer, and I drove around the block, and he held the mic out the sunroof, and that worked great. So this is some of that. And this was the track that we built out in quad. So in the rest, you land down there, and you're in the middle of a huge storm, and so you hear this in the surrounds just all around you, this wind. So pretty intense.